Welcome to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast. This is the only podcast that gives you a raw and unfiltered perspective of what it's really like to be a professional cheerleader. Whether you're currently on a pro team, an alumni, or really curious about what it takes to become a pro cheerleader, the Pro Cheerleading Podcast gives you all the inside scoop and hot topics in the pro cheerleading industry and in-depth interviews of current and former cheerleaders. I'm your host, Mhkeeba. Join me every Wednesday as I reveal the truth behind the Poms. Welcome to part 2 of the I Hope You Dance episode. This is the episode focused on motherhood while being a professional cheerleader, and I can't wait for you guys to listen to this interview. I did a group panel with 6 dancers across the NFL and NBA. I have Lee and London from the Washington Redskins Cheerleaders. I have Summer and Emily from the Raiderettes. And I have Mariah from the Sacramento Kings and Amy from the New Orleans Pelicans from the NBA. And these women were so gracious to spend the day before Mother's Day with me and sharing their stories. And I will not give too much away. For those that don't know it about me, I had 2 kids when I became an NFL cheerleader for the Seattle Seahawks. My son was 6 and my daughter was 4 when I made the team. And I basically cheered up to when they were about 12 and 10 was when I stopped, with a year off somewhere in there after my rookie year. But it was definitely a balancing act, and I really wanted to give these women the floor to share their experiences. And so in light of that, I probably didn't share as much about myself, but I just think the conversation and the way these women expressed themselves captured so much. There were a couple people that wrote in after I had kind of capped the interview at 6. I would love to have like a 20-person panel about being a mom, but one woman, Aaliyah, wrote in. She was a former Cincinnati Bengals cheerleader, and in sharing her story, she was in her 6th season cheering for the Cincinnati Bengals. It kind of planned her wedding and her honeymoon around the season schedule, and basically, learned that she was pregnant a couple weeks after her honeymoon, and cheered pregnant the whole season. She was on the team. She had spoken to her doctor about whether it was safe and, kind of trying to figure out when she would start showing. But basically, she ended up waiting until the playoffs in January to announce to her team that she was pregnant and expecting. After she had the baby, she dedicated every day to getting back in shape so she can try out again. And she made it. And her son was about 8 or 9 months old. But I asked her a couple questions. I hated that we didn't get to include her as part of the discussion. But some of the questions that I asked of the women, and this is just to give you a preview, I asked, how did you manage the balancing act while you were on the team? From practices to appearances and games. And how did being a mom impact your relationships with your family and the rest of your teammates? Her response was that balancing cheering and having a family was definitely, not an easy task. Her Bengal sisters were really supportive and understood if she needed to ask someone to sub for her in an appearance. And they were also very supportive when she traveled to Mexico and London because, she would get a little emotional, from missing her family, and they would be right there to cheer her up. They loved her son, and as much time as she spent away because of cheering, she never missed a milestone for her son. She said cheering did impact her family a little bit. She said her husband was great and very supportive, but her son went from a mama's boy to a daddy's boy, because he was with him so much. And that definitely broke her heart. And that's when she knew that it was time to retire. And the other question that I asked her was, if she could share any advice with another mom who was considering trying out, what she would say. And she said she would definitely say do it. And don't get her wrong, there's going to be a lot of hard work. But, she said her son is 4 years old now, and he's so proud that his mom was a cheerleader for the Bengals. He loves looking back at pictures and seeing him at appearances and games. She said after being a cheerleader, she hopes that her children will learn to chase their dreams. She never thought she would be capable of being an NFL cheerleader, but she took a shot at it, and it was the best 7 seasons of her life and a dream come true. And she said, I hope that whatever their dreams are, they will go after them. And it's so cute. She said, although her son still thinks he has a chance to be Spider-Man. But that's just a preview of kind of what people shared in their stories and reflecting on that experience, how they found out they were expecting to how they balanced it while they were on the team, and things that they want to leave their families with and other moms in terms of just inspiration to go after it. So with that, I am going to kick it to the rest of this panel, and I can't wait to hear your feedback on this episode. Please share, because this was a really, really special conversation to have right in time for Mother's Day. You guys look stunning and beautiful, and I just thank you for making time on your weekend. I know we're in quarantine, but still there's a lot going on. I'm sure you all feel that way if you're working from home, especially, where it's like the weekend comes and you're just like, thank God, a chance to not get up and work and not even touch a computer. So I really appreciate you all making time for this and making one of my podcast dreams come true with having this episode. And Lee, thank you so much for hanging in there with me. I've just been corresponding with Lee for the longest about doing this episode. So I just thank everybody for participating. This is going to be awesome.
This is so much better. I'm glad that we paused it that last time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. When we were first talking about it, I think it was right before the corona really started to go down. And so kind of okay, well, there went that idea, but it
happened for a reason. This is going to be epic.
So let's just introduce ourselves to each other. I mean, I'll probably act like a teacher and call on people a little bit, but if everybody can welcome to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast. I'm terrible at starting my own show, but welcome, ladies, and just give us your name and what team you cheer for, and if you care to share what age that you were at, because I'm retired for a few years now, but if you want to just share how old you were when you were on the team and how old your kids were, I think that's kind of inspiring for people to hear, because I'll start. I'm old as dirt. I'm 42 now. And when I made the team with the Seahawks, I was 33, going on 34. And my son was 6 and my daughter was 4. I'm terrible at math, so I actually had to write that down, because I was how old were they and how old was I? But they were a little bit older, and I can't wait to start with each of you. So London, why don't you start? I'm kind of going in this order that I see on my screen.
Of course. Well, my name is London. I cheer with the Washington Redskins. Of course, this is wearing Redskins because this is all I own. 6 years, 2 years as captain. I'll be 30 on Friday, May 15th. So I'm so excited for my birthday. Hopefully they lift some of this quarantine away so I can go actually really enjoy. My daughter was 4 years old when I joined the team. She will be 11 in June. Wow. And she has been in this experience with me, and I even tortured her to be a junior Washington Redskins cheerleader. So I got to share the field with her for 6 years, the most amazing 6 years of my life. And I definitely couldn't have thanked Stephanie and Jamila for just allowing me to be able to share that with her.
That's awesome. Well, let's see. Mariah, you want to go next?
Yeah, so I am Mariah. I danced with the Sacramento Kings for 3 seasons. When I started, my daughter was 3, so she grew up within the organization, with the Kings family being my family and her family, for about 3 years.
Wow. This is so cool to hear. I'm sorry. I'm probably gonna be that giddy, yeah. I'm so excited. Summer, why don't you go next?
Yeah, my name is Summer. So I am newly retired from the Oakland Raiderettes. This was my last season. I was on the team in 2015, and my son was 3 at the time. And then I got pregnant right after the season ended in January and had my second son. And I came back in 2018 and 2019. And my second son was 2 and 3 for those years. And I am 35 years old. I will put that out there. I'm very proud of that.
Awesome. Okay, Amy, let's hear from you.
Hey guys, I'm Amy. I danced for the New Orleans Pelicans for 2 seasons. My son, I'm very bad at math too, so I'm trying to calculate. He was 2 at the time when I started my first season. After my second season, I got pregnant with my daughter. My daughter, she is 4, and my son is 10. And I'm going for NFL this time around, so this is why I look semi-decent. I just finished filming my virtual video, so We'll see how that goes.
Good luck.
Congratulations and good luck.
For the Sensations or?
No, so we're military. We move all over the place. We are now in Dayton, Ohio. So I'm trying out for the Bengals.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah.
Best of luck to you. I'm sure you'll kill it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. So Lee, you're next. I love that you have your rosé with you.
I feel like 2 glasses deep right now. I'm Lee, and I am 33. Throw that out there. And I cheered for the Washington Redskins with London for 5 years, for a lot of those years, and then off and on. So it was spread out between 2012 and then 2018. And I have one son. His name is Cayman, and I had him in 2016. So I only cheered half of a season in 2015 because I was pregnant with him, and then returned the following year in 2016, 8 weeks after having him, which was crazy.
That's why we're starting with your story after introductions.
Oh no.
I mean, it's just fascinating. So we'll come back to you for sure. And Emily.
Hi. So Summer, we're sisters. I'm also a former Oakland Raiderette.
Yay!
And, I know. And I totally know who you are because, of course, I follow I follow the Raiderettes every single year. I always know who's made the team, who's coming back. It's like my guilty pleasure obsession. So, I didn't get to cheer with you, though, unfortunately. Let's see. So I cheered 03, 04. So Karen was my choreographer. I think you probably had Jeanette, I'm guessing, and then Nancy, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I cheered in 03, 04. My son was 5'6" at the time. My son, Noah. I'm now 43. So Mhkeeba, Mike, hey. Yes. Old ladies unite, okay? So I was one of the, I guess, kind of medium-aged gals on the team at the time. So let's see, I must have been like 26 at the time. So, you always have that mix of girls that are like 18 when they make it all the way up to, 30s, mid-30s. So, yeah, my son got to go to a few games and see mom. And it's probably one of my most favorite memories of cheering.
Awesome. Well, let's start with Lee because, asking you guys just to think about, like how you approach the idea of motherhood or even becoming a pro cheerleader. So it sounds like a lot of us had kids first and then auditioned, right? I'm trying to keep track. But I think Lee, you were on the team at the time that you discovered you were pregnant. So you had been on the team, living your best life and and then discovered that you were pregnant while you were in season. Is that right? Can you just talk us through that a little bit?
Yes. So I was literally just thinking about this. I reflect on this pretty often when Mother's Day rolls around nowadays. But I was in a totally different season of life. Like you said, I was, living pretty solo. I had a boyfriend of 1.5 years, but I had just closed on a condo that was 1 bed, 1 bath, like the first place I'd ever owned. I had like a big girl job, was on the team, and I was pretty much thinking my world was myself and my immediate friends. And with my boyfriend, marriage hadn't been discussed too seriously at that time. Like, we were in love, but hadn't gone that far. And I loved kids. I loved being around them, but only in small doses. I think it's kind of like when you see somebody's new puppy, and you're like obsessed with them, you have not acknowledged the cuteness, and in the moment it's like the best, but like there's no commitment. And at the end of the day, you're just going to go on your way and go about your day, right. Free to do as you please. So that was kind of my mindset about kids then, and also that they're just a huge commitment for like later in life when you have all of the things on the list checked off, like the husband, the house, financial stability. And also after you've done all of the things that you really want to do. And so I was kind of in that phase of doing what I wanted to do. And my dream was to be an NFL cheerleader. So when I found out I was pregnant, I'll never forget, I took multiple tests. Like if it reads the HCG hormone, like it's not a negative, especially if you take 2. I took 8. And so my boyfriend came home from a co-ed adult league soccer game, and I was bawling my eyes out in the bathroom on the floor, and I was legitimately just terrified. I felt like all at once, like my mind was flooding with all of these thoughts about what to do, how to prepare, financial implications, how my body was about to change, and then the team also. I think we had just gotten back from our calendar trip. This was kind of end of May, very, very early June of that season. So we had just come back from calendar trip, and I was in my third year. And I don't know if we had announced yet, but I think I was co-captain that year, London. I'm not positive, but so there's just a lot of things going on, and it was really overwhelming. And I knew that my life would never be the same. And I felt like for many weeks I was kind of in this pretty bad place because I was emotional, and I had these raw responses because I felt like there was this stigma in my mind with being a mother where it's kind of like a death sentence for your former single life. And I felt what I thought at that time was my best life. So I kind of believed I would have to give it all up, and I wasn't ready. Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional.
I feel like there will be tears this episode, but keep it real. It's totally fine.
Yeah, I kind of felt like a failure, honestly. I felt like I was in a good place and I had everything lined up that I had worked really hard for. Mm-hmm. And there was this thing now, like a human who was going to come in, and it was about to change everything and kind of all out of my control.
Yeah. And I can only imagine being on the team. You've had a couple seasons, you've been put into a leadership position, and that's early. So, the season hadn't even started for football. So you're having to, oh my gosh, just the overwhelming sense of like all the things that you're processing had to be crazy, because there's that, like, how long do you wait before you say something? Are you like being selfish if you do decide to wait and mention it later on where they're, you know what I mean? Like all those things would just have freaked me the heck out. I could totally see that.
I have this story about Lee. It's so funny. So she was already pregnant, and everyone knows that Lee loves to turn up. She loves her drinks. And we went to the Nats game as a bonding event, and she was drinking water. And as a mom, I'm already a mom, so I'm like, Lee's drinking water. She was on the table like with her cup of water, like, yeah, like she was like, and I looked at her, like her stomach, and I just automatically like knew. I was like, she is pregnant. Not saying nothing at all. But once I told Chantel, she was like, don't tell anybody. I was like, well, I know that because everyone wants to announce their own pregnancies.
Yeah.
So it was like, you was living your best life.
With water.
With water.
That's so true. The moms on the team that were on the team, Chantel, London, they knew. They didn't take long for them to figure it out, for sure.
Goodness. Well, what about the rest of you when you had your kids already? And I'm sure maybe had that dream of becoming a cheerleader or dancer for, the pros. So how did you approach going after it? I'll start just so I can keep it brief and move on to the next person. But, for myself, I had, like you said, Lee, kind of had the job, the career. I was happy as a mother. I felt like it was my greatest accomplishment aside from everything else that I had done. So I was just like, this is life, and then I was just like, wait, I don't remember what the heck I used to love doing. So like I was happy, but I kind of wasn't happy. So that's how I stumbled upon just getting back to what I really wanted to do. And that's how I went after, cheering for the Seahawks. And it took 4 auditions. But the first time I auditioned, I was like, my daughter had just had her first birthday. It always had the open call, like right around their birthday weekend. The kids are 2 days apart, 2 years, 2 days apart. And so I was crazy back then to even think that it was like feasible at that age for the kids, but I did it anyway. And then I just kept making it to finals until I finally made it 4 tries later. But I definitely felt like, am I kind of crazy for pursuing this? And I'm just curious what you guys' journey was in terms of deciding that you were going to go after it, how you prepared, how you got your body right, like all of those things. So let's start with Summer. Or whoever wants to.
I kind of have the same story as you as far as after having kids, I almost had a loss of my identity for a little bit where I was like, what do I enjoy doing? because your life completely changes. And my husband is a drummer, so he gets it. He's a performer, and so he understood me, which was great, and he pushed me to audition. Because prior to that, I had moved right after high school to LA to pursue professional dancing for 5 years. And after that, I decided to move back home to the Bay Area and get my degree so I could start my life. And I had been with my husband since I was 16. So he's been through this whole journey with me. He's my rock, and understands that I love to dance. So he was the one that encouraged me to audition after having my child, because I really thought, oh, there's my dancing career. I've already done it. I moved, I tried it, I did everything I wanted to do. I've done performances. That's it for me. Plus, I'm getting older. What is there to do?
Right.
And that's what's so great about, the organization. There's no age limit. I mean, I wanted to state my age because I could be aging myself here, where So You Think You Can Dance, they had an age limit of 30 years old. So I just think it's amazing that this organization does not have an age limit. So I decided to audition because my husband pushed me, and I had a good support system around me, and it really helped me find myself again. So that's my story.
Well, what about you, Amy?
Something similar. I think having that partner that understands how much you love to dance and pushes you to reach your dreams as well. After having my son, we were still stationed in San Antonio, so trying out for the Spurs was kind of the goal. And then, surprise, we got orders to Biloxi, Mississippi.
Oh, I thought it was like the time for the team going away.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, military decided to send us to the coast. So first thing I checked, nearest NBA, NFL squad, which is what I normally do every time we get orders. So once we moved, kind of trying to balance moving, being in the military, and adjusting to a new city, don't know anyone, and just kind of going for it. That was the main thing, just not being terrified, which I was. And thankfully I got the guts to do it, and it pulled through. So now that we got orders over here to Dayton, again, nearest NFL NBA team. And thankfully, the Cincinnati has an awesome organization when it comes to their cheer team. So hopefully I'll get to experience that. But now with 2 kids, it should be interesting.
You can do it. Definitely can be done.
Also, I want to say, London, I saw when they posted your mom article that you had written, and I was in tears. I was like,
oh, thank you.
It's so inspirational.
Every time I talk about her, I'm just like your kids just do something to you,
Yeah.
Crazy.
Sure.
You'll have to send that link around, and I will publish it with the episode too. So
will do. Thank you.
That. What about your audition experience?
So, I grew up like ballet, modern, like typical stage dancing. And I moved to Philadelphia to complete my dancing career, which I was like, once I finish out of Philly, I'll be good to go. That didn't happen like that. So, I got pregnant, and I actually moved back home to DC, and I technically went through my whole pregnancy alone. So I raised her single mom for about 4 years. And then I met my boyfriend, who, when I met him, I actually had just got cut from the finals with NBA team here in DC, Wizards. And I was like, I don't know what I can do. And I don't even know what made me want to audition to be a pro. And I think after 4 years, like you said, you lose yourself. You don't know what you really want. You just really want to go and dance. I was like, dance made me happy. I want to figure it out, but let me try something different. This is a bigger audience. So then I didn't make it with them. And then somehow I saw Redskins, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like something I really I want to do. So I've always had a big support system. My parents have always been behind me 100%. And now I had, my boyfriend, who I wasn't with that long, But I was like, oh, it's Washington Redskins. They have a training program. I really want to be in it. And at the time, I was like, I don't know where I can get this money. I'm just trying to figure it out. The kids take all the money. So I'm like, I don't know. Then one random day, he was like, here's the money. If you want to do it, go for it. So I did the training program, and it just changed my entire life. And I was like, I'm going to audition. This is going to be it. I got cut from finals, and then 2 weeks later, I was called back to be on the team. So I was like, this is where I should be here, and never looked back, like, ever. 6 years. I was like, year 4, okay, this may be it. Nope, year 5, no, this, no, and kept going. But honestly, it's the support system. Once you have that support behind you, I mean, nobody can tell you no ever, because that's going to be the person in your corner telling you, like, you can do it. I got your child. You're fine. Live your dream. And that's what I did.
That's awesome. We'll definitely have to speak to, I debated, and like my truth behind the Poms is like my little compass of like, how much do I share? But it's interesting if you don't have the support, or it just creates a different experience and hurdle of just kind of like pressing forward anyway. So we'll definitely maybe circle back to that. But what about you, Mariah?
So kind of similar. I didn't have a super great support system with my partner. My family, on the other hand, is insanely supportive. I honestly didn't think I was going to make a team whatsoever. I didn't have a dance background. I was honestly just kind of doing auditions for fun. I tried out for the Sacramento Kings and then the Niners, like back to back each year. And I never thought I was going to make it. And nobody on the Kings had kids. So I had never saw. And so I saw that as kind of a con. Like I saw it as a downfall. Like I have kids, I have tattoos, I have all of these things that are not like the ideal dancer or pro cheerleader or whatever. So I just remember crying to my dad every single audition. Like I didn't think I was going to make it, but I was still determined to prove everybody wrong, because I got pregnant on my 18th birthday and I gave up a full ride scholarship to have her. And so just everybody told me I was never going to get a degree. I was never going to continue with athletics. And so I was just so determined, but still like, I can't do it at the same exact time. Right. And so I think just coming back, my coach saw after 3 auditions, like she saw, okay, this girl's coming back. Because to be honest, I was not extremely talented. Like I was not up to par on the dancing, because that wasn't my world. I had no idea what I was stepping into. But I think the determination my coach saw, and when I made the team, it was just like, I didn't even think about further than that of actually making the team, who's going to watch her, because I wasn't with her father at the time. And just like, what in the world am I going to do? And thankfully my coach was super supportive. And if babysitters fell through, because you're paying a babysitter almost the same amount that you're making, but whatever, it's my passion, I'm going to do it. And if they fall through, my coach is like, if you can get your work done, she can come sit here. So just like I said before, just her being raised with her Kings family as my family, and all of us just collectively. And I don't think my teammates missed a birthday that she had ever, or just amazing things like that the support that I lacked, and maybe a partnership I gained with 20 females on my team, which was so incredible.
And that means so much to have the support of the leadership of the team, your teammates, and we'll get to that as well. But that's awesome, because you need a support system. Like I'm sure we can all attest to that. Like you have to have it to actually make the demanding schedule of being a professional dancer, cheerleader work. I mean, but let's hear from you, Emily. If I forget anybody, just freaking interrupt. Like I feel like it's almost too formal, but I just want to make sure we get to everybody.
Yeah, so I have a very similar experience to London and Mariah. So my son's father was not great, and so I didn't really have that support at all. But I do have an amazing family, and we had actually moved back in with my mother and stepfather at the time, and so when I made the team, I guess that was like the first hurdle, and just kind of like Mariah said, then you're like, oh, wait a second. Now I actually have to figure out practice nights and, charity events, game days. As we all know, a game day is like a super long day. And so for me, it was definitely having my familial support. That's really cool what you were saying, Mariah, about the Sacramento Kings for sure, because letting your daughter stay during practice, we didn't really have that. But I live about an hour and a half from where our practices were. And so I would work all day. So by trade, I was also a career woman. So I am a probation officer. So I would work all day. Literally leave work at 5, go straight to Oakland, or it was San Leandro for our practices. And then, we would practice till about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night and then drive home. And of course, my son would be asleep by then. So, I definitely had some mom guilt. I'm sure we'll get into that later. Oh, I'm not there putting him down to sleep, or, on Saturday practices, he's waking up right now and I'm not there and he probably wants to know, where I am. Or even at charity events, as much as I love charity events, I was like, my own son probably needs my charity right now, and here I am, dealing with somebody else's children and stuff. So there was some of that, even though, but it didn't take away, I don't think, from the experience. But yeah, with my son already being 5, it definitely factored into me trying out in the future. It kind of got the best of me, where I felt like, what, if I didn't have such a demanding career, it could have been more possible because I would have had more time. But, I didn't have that. I mean, my career and being a single parent, it was like, I'm very independent, and I knew it's going to be my salary alone that's going to sustain us. And so, I wasn't really going to rely on, his father, unfortunately, to be a huge contributor, because he kind of showed that he just probably wasn't going to be the best for both of us. So I had to walk away from that and just know I'm going to do this on my own, but I'm not going to let it stop me from my dreams and goals. So I've always been part of an NFL family. And so my father has worked in the NFL for a number of years. He's retired now, but I would always watch the Raiderettes, actually starting when they were in LA. And so I'd watch the LA Raiderettes, and I mean, those women, and to this day, I'm sure Summer can attest to this, they are just they are the most glamorous being on the planet. Dude, I mean, it is unreal. I'm like, these ladies in their 50s now and 60s, it's just holy cow. I have no idea how they do it, but I just idolize them. And I knew I would watch the Raiderettes as much as I would watch the games when I was younger, because I was a little girl watching. And so I just always knew I wanted to be a Raiderette. It was always about the Raiderettes or a Laker girl. And so since when the Raiders moved back to Oakland, which is much closer to where I am, I just knew it. And even though I was a single mom, even though I had my career, I knew that I was not going to let anything stop me from trying out. And so I just went for it. I was like, there's literally nothing that's going to stop me from trying out. I didn't feel like my child was a hindrance in that area. I knew that if I made it, I would figure it out. You just make the rest of it work.
Do that, moms.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And so just ended up being okay. But I did have a very incredible support system in my parents. And I have a younger brother who he moved back home from college around that same time. So he's kind of favorite uncle, and he would just do all kinds of things with my son. So we made it work, but I just knew I was never going to let anything stop me from that goal, because it was a goal I had literally starting when I was a little girl, probably 7, 8 years old. I knew I wanted to be a Raiderette. So.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, I appreciate everybody sharing, especially, just being willing to be vulnerable about it, right? When you don't have the support system, it's not, the pretty perfect package, so to speak. And, I just appreciate everybody being willing to share that, because I think as a mom, especially, and we'll get to the guilt and all of that, but just there's so much that you're processing, right? Because your kids come first. It's not a question of that. And there's sometimes this perception that you've lived your life and now it's time to focus on your kid's life, and that there's no room. I think that was kind of, in terms of support from my kid's father, it was really just, he didn't understand that I wasn't really taking away from my role as a mother by pursuing this. And that even with the time, and we'll talk next about the balancing act, but it's almost like a fight on principles of what being a mother is about. Right. And having to overcome that, where I was like somewhat absorbing it a little bit, like, dang, am I like a crappy mom? Like, for just even wanting to do this? Am I selfish? Am I, not putting them first? Getting ready to audition and telling yourself that you're going to go for it, that's enough just by itself, mom or no mom. But when you're trying to factor into how you feel about your role as a mother and how this could impact your time with the kids, and getting past that hurdle, especially if you have somebody that has a difference of opinion in that way, it definitely is a lot to overcome. But here we all are, and you work through it and you figure it out. So you guys make the team, and I'm with y'all, where it was just kind of, I had my mom, who is definitely, we'll figure it out. If we need to watch them during practices, then that's what we'll do. And as late as they are, like, I don't think anybody knew what we were getting into and how late that would be. Oh my gosh. Like, you have no idea until you're in it. But I think you guys have spoken to kind of just how your support system kicked in for you. But how did you balance? When I was thinking about this episode, I thought a lot about the times where I felt out of balance, where, and I just mentioned it to my kids the other day, my daughter anyway, but just the times where I would kind of seek permission to be late for practice, right? So that I can go to something for their school. Every time they had something for the school in the evening, it would always be a Tuesday or Thursday night. They could never have it on a Wednesday. They could never have it on a Monday. It was always a practice night. And so it drove me nuts. And not everything you have to go to as a parent, obviously, right? But the times where I did try to balance them both, I mean, I would get permission, but I still felt this pressure, even when you're a part of a team. Other people are depending on you, like knowing that they can't set things or do things with some of these myths. I mean, they do it without you, but you just feel like you have to be in two places at once. And, one of the things that I look back on, and I'm just like, in terms of the balancing act, was just the times where I felt really rushed. Like if I went to my kids' fair where they're doing their little, presentation on a project that they did, and I'm there, but I'm thinking of where I need to be. And sometimes that was just really hard, because we called it seagull anxiety back then. I don't know what they call it now, but where you're just kind of like in that frenzy of like practice, you're thinking about the routines, you're dancing in your car, you're like so focused on being ready for your rehearsals. And sometimes I felt that anxiety when I was trying to be in mom mode. Sometimes I wasn't the best at kind of like shutting that off and giving my kids like we have all day, like, tell me about it. You know what I mean? When you're trying to get somewhere. I think my kids understood it and didn't internalize it, thank God. My daughter was like, I don't even remember that, Mom, but whatever. But how did you guys process just that feeling of, am I balancing this appropriately, or just, let's just deal with the guilt crap? Because I know I hate that word, mom guilt, but how did you process the times of feeling like you weren't in the best balancing mode? Anybody can jump in on this one.
Mom guilt is so real, so real. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've had it the whole entire time that my daughter's been born. Just things like that, balancing. So her whole life, I've been working full-time, in school full-time, trying to volunteer at all of the things, trying to get her in soccer or basketball and be there every Sunday and be at every practice, and so much guilt with NBA and trying to make sure that I look perfect so that I can make it back next year, because every day is an audition and I don't want anybody to think I'm not reliable. Or and we would have to drive. We had a G League, so I would drive to Reno on some games and drive back and then work all day and then go straight to, it was just insane. Mm-hmm. And like nights that you were saying where Halloween fell on a Thursday and we still had to be at practice. So I'm like, let me get a babysitter who's closest to the arena that I need to be at. I'm going to pick her up and go to the most random location of Halloween trick-or-treating so that I can just make it. And it's going to be great. And one of my teammates came with me, and we're just going to pretend like this is normal. Because you don't stop to think. You just keep going. You just figure it out. And this is her normal, and she's not going to know any different until after.
No, but that you have to get creative with it. I will definitely say, like, I try to focus on not so much the time that I wasn't there, but the time that we did have together, just like making it like doing the most, the like time ever. You know, just because for that was their normal, like you said, of what they can expect of the time that they did get with me. Like we were doing it up big time. What did everybody else kind of do?
Right. I was fortunate enough that my kids were still at a young age where I didn't have to worry about school priorities. But I definitely still, of course, had mom guilt because I had a full-time job during the day at a hospital and then would go to rehearsal Tuesday and Wednesday nights. and not see them at all on Tuesday, Wednesdays, except for the morning. And fortunately enough, Saturday mornings, our rehearsals were early enough where I still felt I had the whole weekend with them. So what I made sure was that I didn't plan anything on the weekends. I didn't even clean the house. I didn't do any of that. That was my time to spend with them, quality time with them. So I was fortunate enough to have that. And like I said, I will keep repeating, I had a great support system where my husband was around. If he wasn't there, I could call my mom for anything. So I was pretty fortunate in that. But I definitely had a hard time finding time to rehearse and make myself prepared for rehearsals. I would have to rehearse at night after bed. So that was a challenge.
Yes.
Yeah, but still, I mean, that guilt will always be there. You can't get rid of it, but you just have to find other ways to be with them because they don't truly understand at that young of an age. So he still doesn't understand what I did. They came to one game, but still, they left during halftime. I mean.
Trust me, my kids are 13 and 15 now. They just had birthdays. Oh, my God. But, like, by the time that they're this age, trust me, they've forgotten or like it's not even a thing to them. Like, I mean, I don't expect them to like throw me a parade for being a cheerleader in the NFL. But it's like they are so like, oh yeah, you did that. Like it's normal. And I'm like, it's not. But anyway, who else wants to chime in on just like the balancing act and how you managed it?
So for me, I was working full time as well. And there were times where I would go to work, go straight to practice, and I was also commuting. So it was an hour and a half drive to practice, an hour and a half back from practice. So by the time I would get home, he'd be asleep. And by the time I woke up for work at 4:30 in the morning, I wasn't like I was going to wake him up in the middle of the night. So it was really hard. There were weeks where, I mean, for NBA, we have 2 or 3 games a week sometimes, and our practices too. So I would go 4 days without seeing my child, and it was the mom guilt definitely hit. And again, I tell people all the time, this is the most full-time, part-time job that you're going to have ever.
I'm so amazed by NBA dancers because of that schedule. So, I mean, to expand on, like, you have like 40 plus games that you're cheering at or dancing at, and then the practices, like you said, in between. So I can only imagine what we balance with an NFL schedule compared to an NBA schedule. So, I mean, that would be hard.
Definitely. Yeah. And like you said, sometimes there wasn't any time to practice on your own. It was either, am I going to practice or am I going to play basketball with my son? So at that time he was 2, and I think he knew every performance song because it'd be playing in the background as we were playing basketball, me doing the moves, and he'd be like, what are you doing? Like, shoot the ball. And I'd be like, I'm so sorry. Shoot the ball. So there were a lot of guilt. But also now that he's, a lot older, I ask him, do you remember anything from when I was dancing for the Pelicans? And he'll say like, I remember meeting the mascot. I'm like, really?
Oh, not the mascot.
Oh, yeah, he loves Pierre. He doesn't remember me at all, but at least he remembers like little things like getting free T-shirts and meeting Pierre. So it makes me feel better.
Did you guys do this thing where like, and I don't mean to get all like emotional, but for me coming home to my kids being asleep, and I mean, luckily I had the mornings with them. I couldn't imagine having to leave early before they, even both ends, like not at night and in the morning. But I don't think I disturbed them. But every time I come home from practice, especially if it was like a tough practice, I mean, I'm all up in their room, bed,
cuddling.
You know what I mean? Like it's talking to them probably a little bit, but it was just kind of like, it's in those moments where you see your kids sleeping that you just feel like you just hope their whole world is okay. And they would look so angelic that you would think like, maybe they aren't, maybe they didn't go to bed feeling alone, or like you aren't there for them. And, and it's shit. Am I making everybody cry? Like I'm about to cry.
I know.
I I just remember those being my times where I would just try to like love on them, whether they were awake or not, just because I knew I was missing a lot. And I mean, in retrospect, I know that they turn out fine, and they aren't looking at a timesheet of how present you were. Like, you missed this, you missed that, and kids have a weird perspective. Maybe they do remember things that you weren't at if it was a big deal, but they also don't remember like the 280 million other times that you were there sometimes, but they end up okay. Like, I think what we've all experienced, I think just knowing that you feel out of balance, or your kids might be suffering or impacted, they still love you unconditionally, and they end up being okay, you know. And it's just, you have to, it's hard at the moment, especially, to not be so hard on yourself about it. But I was just curious if I was the only one that did that, because I was such a little, that was the first place I'd go. Probably should have showered first, but I was just like, I wanted to see the kids. And
I think it's so bad because, like you're saying, laying in the bed with your child, you kind of like push your spouse out the picture. And the next day you wake up in your child's bed, because I would fall asleep with her in the bed and wake up and look at him and be like, oops. But it would be like three nights a week. But it's just my compensation to her to be like, I missed you. Like, I didn't see you all day. I had like a rough like practice. I would leave work and drive like in DC traffic an hour home just to grab her, to take her to my mom's, which thankfully lived by the stadium for the last couple of years. So it was like a 5-minute drive from the stadium to my mom's house. But it was also those times where I would get out later than practice was expected, to have to go to my mom's house, wake her up, you know, that to me right there was like, ugh, and bring her home to put her to bed. Yeah. That was always my guilt, you know. And like, it's times where you like, I think I cried at practice one night, and I tried to just like, you know, cover my face because it was going on like midnight, and I was just like, I still have to pick my child up. Like, we still have to get up at 5:30, 6 in the morning to like start the day all over again. But then, you know, mom brain kicks in after school. You're like, let's go for ice cream. You know, like, you're just trying to make it up somehow, some way. So she'll forget that you woke her up at 12:30 a.m. to get her home. So, but you still just want to do all the things that you love, you know.
I definitely remember that. I mean, when you have childcare and you're trying to, logistically balance like the matrix of getting everybody where they need to be on time. And, you know, my rookie year especially, and again, we all spoke to it, like, we don't know what we're in for. So when I think about, there was a point in my rookie year where I almost quit because I wasn't keeping up with the dances, you know, lacking that practice time. My son loves to dance. Both of my kids, well, my son more so than my daughter, loves to dance, but you know, it became a dance party when I was trying to practice at home. Trying to like let that be our fun time of bonding. But I do remember I just felt like overwhelmed, and I'm like not doing this right. And, you know, my teammates, I think, you know, when there's that one person that's struggling and then you're like there forever, and you're going over things, I just felt like I was just failing on every front. But, you know, I got over that and didn't end up quitting. But I do remember, London, like you said, just the nights where we'd go late. And it's not even like a good reason to go late. You're just dinking around like you got all damn day. And it's like, all I could think about was like, like, I got to pick up my kids, wake them up, take them home. And you just feel like shit. I mean, there's just no other cute way of putting it. And sometimes, you know, I had to have a talk with the school because, I mean, this is like kindergarten, first grade. It's not like it's life or death here. Because if they were tired in the morning, sometimes I would just allow us to be late, you know, like, damn it in hell, like, they're just going to be late. Like, if they need to sleep and I sense it, for me having a late night the night before, I just decided that I'm going to take care of home in that way. And if it means that we're tardy for school, then so be it. But it's definitely, I remember that feeling, like, because that was where I felt, and my mom was always just like, it's okay, and I'll be fine. But, you know, you're the one picking up 2 kids, sleeping heavy as heck, and trying to, you know,
and my child is as tall as me right now. Like, I'm shorty over here. People think we're sisters. Like, no, this is my child here. But another thing that I can say, like, over the past 3 or 4 years on the team, I was able to take her to like our magazine and calendar trips. So I felt like those were big gifts to her, to say like, just a thank you to her, like, come on girl, let's go on this trip, let's go to the beach, let's go to this photo shoots, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's beautiful to be able to spend time. I did not realize until I was paying more attention to the magazine release that you guys just did of that it really was like a family affair. I was like, what? Like, that's so cool to be able to bring your kids into the experience so that they feel more a part of it. I think when I made it back on the team, because I was off for one season after my rookie year, and they were a little older, I just kind of had that mindset too of balancing, is like, I'm going to just bring them into my world a little bit more, like go to training camp together and talk. Whoever mentioned the kids loving the damn mascot, I mean, Blitz was the highlight of their whole entire world. They had like a movie party for the kids club. I had the kids join the kids club, and so it made them feel like they had their own way of connecting to my job, where it was fun, and that helped. I remember that being a little bit of a turning point. Rookie year was just hard as F, frankly.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to chime in?
The same way with you guys about like including her in as much as possible, and that being like the only way that I can make it feel okay. And just even at 3 years old, trying to explain like what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I think that for me, community engagement was like my heart and soul. And so I would say yes to absolutely any appearance. And they would always put me on Make-A-Wish because that was my like strong suit, and all the ones with the kids. And so I just remember like meeting a little girl that was also 3 and had leukemia and lost all of her hair. And so I'm looking at this 3-year-old, and as soon as I go home, I just explain her and her challenges to my daughter, and just have Aubrielle understand everything that I'm going through on a daily. And so then my daughter wanted to donate her hair to friends like that, or like bringing her to any game that I possibly can and having her step onto the court. And the Kings like selected me to make a video. And it's just like my life and a day in the life with me and my daughter, and how we get to practice and all of that, and how I can include her in community appearances. And just so that she understands that it's not just like me out there dancing, like she sees the behind the scenes and how hard of work we put into it. And then she sees us out there, and she sees us in the community. And so it makes them like better human beings also, because they see how much we do for the community and for the organization and everything, which is really, really amazing. And a lot of people don't have that opportunity.
Yeah. That's so good to bring her into all the aspects of doing what we do, right? Like, because I remember the same thing of talking to the kids about the appearances that touch me, where I can help them understand that it's more to the job. It's not just dancing. And maybe it'll be like later on, because like I said, my kids are checked out a little bit right now, but where they put it all together and understand like what it is that we did and do. Lee, you seem like you're going to say something.
Oh, I think I could definitely relate to the whole practice feeling of like, maybe your teammates don't think that you're just not practicing like you're supposed to, but it's about finding that balance. It's like, because I know oftentimes some of the girls would just say, oh, we're going to practice at whatever, maybe like a sports club or a gym or something, like a side practice, so we can get some of the routines dialed in where we were needing some work. And like a lot of times I just wasn't able to join, because I honestly, it's like you almost have to pick your battles at some point. It's like, yes, I know I need to kill this routine, but like I can't like not see my son 3 days out of the week and feel okay about it, And so I feel like I kind of had to work a little bit harder at the routines just on my own, so that I brought my A game. And it took about half a season for me to just like really get our choreographer's style down and Raiderette style down, to the point where I was like, oh, boom. Like then you're just like picking up routines like so much differently about mid-year. And at that point, I didn't feel like as guilty of missing some of those side practices. But I have to say, like, not only did I have the mom guilt, but then I also felt at times I was letting my teammates down. And, that's the last thing I wanted to do, because I feel like I was a really good teammate. And I was always respected as being somebody who is just extra kind and, definitely would go on a lot of charity appearances because I was not one of the younger ones. I was sort of like middle age on the team, and I knew how to interact with people, and I was a professional, but it's hard. I think that's the struggle that like people that are not moms don't understand, because it's not that I don't want to go and, practice, and nobody was mad or anything. It's just that if the opportunity is there, most people jump on it like, oh yeah, let's go. Let's get this dialed in. Let's look the best that we can. And then I feel like your teammates probably don't feel this way, but you feel like, oh man, they're probably like a little irritated that I'm not going to join today, or something. And so that was definitely hard for me, because I didn't want to give the appearance of like I'm a teammate who just doesn't care about like nailing this routine 100%, or whatever. But when you were saying London, oh my gosh, that totally brought tears in my eyes, because there were a couple times where I had to pick my son up from somebody else's house, a family member or something. And it's like, by the time I would get back to my town, it's like almost midnight. You got to pick them up. And I would literally just like feel so bad. Like there they were in this peaceful slumber. You wake them up, you got to put them back in their bed. And I would literally just like lay there next to them, just like, I want to just touch him, So I want to give my baby all the love. And so it just brings back all of those emotions. So I get it. Like the tears are so real, because that's honestly how you feel. Like it's just something I think it's very unique to this group of pro cheer mamas that you do feel that way.
And I don't know about you guys, but just being able to have your teammates understand you, whether they're moms or not. Like my second year on the team, there was another mom that joined the team, and I was like, yes, like somebody else who can relate to what the heck. I mean, thankfully, my mom actually was able to help her with childcare. I think she's a military wife, and long story short, she just needed a little bit of extra help. And I just didn't want her to go through what I went through my rookie year of just feeling like I was just flailing, trying to make this work. But you mentioned like the practices that are happening on the side. Did you guys ever feel like socially, and we have our get-togethers and we have our little social this, social that, and especially if you were joining the team a little older than everybody else, I know I felt, and again, my mom just kind of stepped in to say, you know what, if you want to go to those things every now and then, just go. You want to feel like you're a part of the team. And it's not like I was searching for best friends or anything like that. But if you miss everything that they have as like a ponding event during the season, it's not ideal. How did it impact your friendships and relationships, I guess, on the team?
I have to say this to you guys. Like, this is, I've been like bawling my eyes out over here. I literally like paper towels of like soaked in tears. This is like the most therapeutic thing that's happened to me since I went back to the team, because there was really no outlet to discuss or really talk about the true guilt, the feelings, the sacrifice. I mean, London, yes, and my other fellow mom teammates, but I struggled a lot internally, because I feel like I'm echoing, my feelings are echoing everything that you guys are saying. It's just the variables that are different, like the support system or the age of the child. Mm-hmm. But the struggle with being the person that you are and wanting what your heart wants, but also knowing that you have a bigger responsibility at that point to another life or another human who really has no say at that point, and it's you being their voice and making those decisions for them. It's so hard to know whether you're doing the right thing or not, or whether you're damaging long term. And I think it's just, I think about how before Cayman, there's still only 24 hours in a day. And I often think, like, what the heck did I do 24 hours in a day before Cayman was born? Because now it's still the same amount of time. And I'm like, I must have been literally doing nothing of value, because I feel like I'm constantly on like light speed mode, hyperdrive, trying to now account for more than one human in the daylight hours. And just hearing you guys, and it would have been so reaffirming and supporting, like to know that like I'm validated in how I'm feeling, because I really honestly felt like I had some unfinished business with being taken away to because, you know, when you have a 2-piece uniform and you're 22 weeks pregnant, you can't be on the field even as much as you want to. You can't, like, there's no one you can pay off. There's like there's no girdle to hide that. You can't, like, Photoshop that out. But, and I think at some point when you're becoming a new mom, you don't really know. Like, even if you're told, just kind of like birth, and we don't have to like go down this, but I have a little issue with this. Like, I kept being like, what's it like to have birth? Tell me. I want to know the pain threshold. And I never really got a straight answer. I think I asked about 20, 30 people. I'm like, they're just like, oh, you know, it's worth it. Like, that was kind of like and I'm just like, so what's it like? Like, what does a contraction feel like? Like, break it down for me. No one could give me a straight answer. And I think that's how it is with like becoming a first-time mom with a newborn. You're like, what is it like? Like, how can I plan for this?
Get that epidural. That's what I would say.
I did, girl. I did. Let's be real.
Right.
But
it's too late. You want the epidural, but that baby's coming.
Exactly. And once they come, I think as women, like, we're kind of wired to be kind of insecure. And even as first-time mothers, you're like, I was so fearful. I don't typically care what other people think or make decisions based on other people's judgments. But when it came to coming back to the team 8 weeks later, even my physician, like the doctor who delivered, was kind of like giving me these looks where I could tell behind her eyes there was a judgment. And I think I was so fearful of judgment that someone would question priorities or even think I was negligent or selfish, like that somebody else would have that thought about me as a first-time mother. It gave me so much doubt about, you know, am I doing something healthy or that's the right thing, or am I going to regret this going back to the team? But
so Lee, I don't think I even gave you the chance to like get the floor of that experience in and of itself. 8 weeks after giving birth, you auditioned, right? Like, am I getting this right?
Yes, and made the team.
And made the team. Not just like recovered from childbirth and so on and so forth. Like, just figured out breastfeeding in the whole 9 yards or whatever you were doing. That is different from all of our experiences of having kids that were older. You had just gone through birth, damn it, like birth. 8 weeks is not a lot of time. I know a lot of people have maybe 6 weeks of maternity leave, and that's an incredibly short amount of time. But if you just count the 6 weeks maybe it takes of healing your body, tack on 2 weeks to like get audition ready. Like, how the hell, real quick, we're just going to spend some time with you, Lee. You know, to your point of like, even mentioning that was your plan and discussing that with your physician, I could imagine like people looking at you like you were smoking crack. Like, what are you doing? You know, like who does that? And it's amazing. Like, please walk us through just
your bounce back game. Hello.
Yeah. Okay. That and just like that. And like
okay,
that.
Before you guys puff it all up, I think the sentiment behind was the same, and it's that you don't know until you try. Like, once you create another life and you bring it into the world, like, your priority is that life. Like, there's just no looking at that little thing that you created that came out of your body and you're like, it's still about me. It was definitely, I was figuring out like nursing, and I'm like, no one else is ever going to touch my boobs again. I hate this. I feel like a cow. Like, there's literally don't know half the things that are happening right now. But at the same time, I had a mindset of questioning the boundary and the threshold. Like, where is the line where I still feel like I'm being successful and devoted 100% to what this tiny person needs, but also doing myself justice and like what I want. And I kept, you know, the 6 weeks there, because I ended up having a C-section. Actually, I wanted to do the like normal, regular way, and I fought really hard to, but he was actually a week late. Or I question if it was even a week late, or if just my timeline, which was not accurate to begin with, was just late. Whatever. He was a week past February 3rd. February 11th is when I was induced. And it ended up, I labored for 24 hours trying to get to the point where you can push. And I had, no idea before. I'm like, why couldn't you just go in with an ultrasound and tell me that like it wouldn't have worked out because the umbilical cord was distressing my child? I would have given you the go ahead 2 hours in to like get him out and like make things a lot easier. But I ended up having a C-section, and then like you said, Mhkeeba, 6 weeks is for that major surgery. It is major surgery. I kind of, had to take it step by step. And so it was in the back of my mind. This is going to sound terrible, but afterwards I'm kind of looking at this scar and I'm like, wow, she did it really low. Like, thank you so much. Like, that's not going to show in a low bikini line. Like, but I'm kind of like immediately like, is that a bad thought to have? Like,
no, I had to say. That my second one was worse. They did a really bad job that time.
Oh no.
I can imagine. But you go and kind of question, and I feel like all of you as strong, independent, goal-oriented women did this. It's like, where is the line? Like, you're gonna stop when you hit the line. If you feel like your child is suffering, like, I would have pulled out for sure.
Yeah.
Unlike my husband.
It does not work. Okay.
Sorry, you can cut that from the tape. I would have stopped, but I think my mindset was, where I'll stop when I feel I've met that line, like how far can I go? And in the 6 weeks, I didn't do anything. I focused on rehabilitating, nursing, and being at home, and thankfully had a really great infant. He was super chill. I kind of attribute it to lemon water. I would really highly recommend lemon, a lot of like 2 lemons squeezed into a gallon of water, and you drink a gallon of water today. Like, it just seemed to help my system get moving and flush things out. I ate well, and of course, breastfeeding, it's just like someone is literally sucking the like life and growth out of your body.
Sucking your weight out.
Because, I'm naturally an A cup, but then I really did enjoy being kind of close to a C. I I kind of wanted to see, and I knew my doctors were, not recommending it, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, how many people have you actually had in this exact scenario? Probably not too many. Mm-hmm. I talked to my director, and like London said, like Jamila, who is now the director, she was the co-director then, and Stephanie Jajokian, like they were so supportive. Stephanie is a mom herself of 2, and I had memories of her my rookie year coaching pregnant. She would be there like belly full on out, like yelling 8 counts, dropping choreo, and doing all of it. And I think, honestly, that was part of my inspiration, is that it doesn't have to hold you back, and you can still be the person that you feel like you want to and need to be and are passionate about, and not have to sacrifice that. And so my goal honestly was auditions, to just that was enough for me to be on the stage, to have my directors like thumbs up, and my friends and my teammates. My baby was in the stands with the headphones on, and my husband was like basically holding him up and
holding in the air.
All over the screen. Like, you get like 3 talking points when you walk out for your swimsuit and you're like posing. My points were like, this girl just gave birth. This girl 8 weeks ago had a human inside her. And I think it was kind of like definitely a little extra, but that was my goal. And being a veteran for sure helped.
Fears.
That is insanely inspiring, I'm sure, to so many people. I mean, because not only just like, if you're whatever age your kid is at, if you are a mom already and you're considering like, can I do this? Can I audition? Showing up for one of these virtual puppies and just, going through the process. And if the fact that you're a mother, or how you can balance it all, is in any way like giving you any sense of doubt, I just want to, this is like a big fat panel that says like, hell yeah, you can.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You guys are so dope. And I've just been so excited about this episode because I knew that it would just help speak to people that have gone through what we've gone through, or just have had those doubts and concerns, like, or are currently figuring out what that line is, Lee, like you're talking about, like, every year with my kids, when it came to auditions, we'd have a family meeting and I would talk to the kids about, because during the off season, I would be all of my kids' butt, right?
Yeah.
We're doing the most all the time. And I started sensing that probably at a certain age, they were kind of like, okay, like we liked it when you were busier with other things. But we would talk about the choice of, do you guys have an opinion about, mommy doing Seek Owls again? And you know what it's like during the off season, I'm around more, there's a lot more going on. And, when I'm on the team, it's a little different, how do you guys feel about it? And they would give me their opinions. And I was kind of coming to that point of retirement where I was like, 5 years is my goal. But I was like, well, if they say something in the family meeting that suggests that they might be okay with another year, maybe I need to reevaluate. But they kind of, I forget how they said it, but they just kind of let me know, like, I think it's good if you don't do it. I forget how it exactly came out. I should have recorded this conversation. But Summer, I know you just recently made the decision to retire. Do you want to talk to kind of what factored into that? And not to put you on the spot.
I kind of didn't really have a choice considering they moved.
Oh, true. That part.
So it was actually an easy choice for me because I didn't have to have that that battle within me whether I do it again or not. Yeah. So it was an easy break for me. So I appreciate them that they're moving, so for my benefit. However, yeah, and I knew it was time because my oldest is 6. He's going to be 7 soon. And I've already started putting him in baseball, and I want him to find his passion. I mean, I started dancing at the age of, 4 or 5, doing recitals, competitions. I've been dancing my whole life, and that is my passion. And I've had the chance to do it as much as I've wanted to. I felt like I've completed everything that I've wanted to, and not really ending my dance career because it still may not be over, but ending it with the Raiderettes is awesome. I feel complete. I feel I've done everything that I wanted to. I could still take dance classes to fill my passion. There's no problem with that. But I really want to focus my time on my boys now and see what their passions are. So I don't feel like I'm going to be missing out, and I feel like everything's complete on my end. But now I'm struggling, even just being at home with them. They won't let me take one dance class. Please give mommy 1 hour to just go away into the garage to take a dance class. And I don't know if it's different with having boys, but when you would think they would like the football games, but they weren't really into them. Whereas the girls, they probably appreciate you dancing around them and seeing you dance on the field. So I don't know where I was going with all of that, but so basically it was an easy end for me just because the Raiders have moved, and I'm really excited to see where they've gone. And yeah, I made sure at the last game to get a lot of men's t-shirts saying it's the last game in Oakland, so then I have them for my boys when they get older, when maybe they do look back what I've done and thought my mom was cool. So
yeah, that's awesome. So I'm nearly retired too, of course. This is the longest retirement ever. Usually like you're done in when they pick a new team, and because everything's so virtual, it's just dragging out. Yeah. So technically you're not retired until they pick a new team, but it was like you said, it was a pretty easy decision. And when you're done, like you are complete. And like for saying like Lee left because she was pregnant, and it's kind of like I still have something to fulfill, so I want to go back. I never wanted to leave the team knowing that I wasn't complete when I left the team, because then you have doubt in yourself to say like this could have happened, or I really missed this and things like that. So leaving this year, my biggest thing was my daughter is now 10. She'll be 11 really soon, and she's actually going into middle school, and I just wanted to really be there for this. Like, this is things that I don't want to miss. She want to join the dance team. Like, so I'm like trying to train her to like get her little front walkover and all that together, like just spending a lot more time, like just trying to make sure she make the dance team and fulfill her dreams now. I can take classes any day. I'm in the house, I got a little space for my classes and all that. But, and then more family time as well, like not feeling guilty of leaving my spouse like to the side. Like I've done my part for 6 years and I'm pretty happy where I left off. So.
Wow. Does anybody else have any walk away from it stories that they want to share?
Mine's kind of similar as well to yours, Mhkeeba. It was like I tried to just be very transparent with my son and, you know, okay, mom's going to go. I clearly remember the night I was going to, I was actually going to try out again. I hadn't completely made the decision I was going to retire, and I was all signed up for, you know, and for auditions. And as a vet, you know, it's like you get to skip the first rounds. And so it's like, I was getting excited to see everybody again. 'Cause, you know, the first, you know, final audition practice. And I distinctly remember getting ready to leave and telling my son that, and he's like, Mom, where are you going? And I said, Mommy's going to Oakland because I'm going to go be a Raiderette again. And he just cried and he said, it breaks my heart just thinking about it. And he said, Mommy, I don't want you to be a Raiderette again. And I miss you. And so, I mean, you know, what do you do? It's like, it was my dream and I loved it so much. And there was nothing that made me happier than being on the field and having my sisters. I mean, to this day, I'm friends with so many of them and just love my team. And I loved, you know, it's my love of performing that I knew I wasn't going to get anymore. But when he's like, Mommy, I missed you when you're a Raiderette, there's really, the decision was made. I didn't have to go, you know what? And I literally didn't go that night. And then I called my directors and I'm like, I'm so sorry. You know, I wasted anybody's time with paperwork or, you know, thinking I was going to be audition and this year. And I can't, it just didn't feel right at that point. So that was it. That was my takeaway. And that was how I retired. It was kind of an unofficial retirement. I didn't really get to say a proper goodbye, but, you know, thankful for social media that's brought so many of us back together again.
Well, I mean, that's the beautiful part of being a mom is knowing your kids and knowing their voice and listening to their voice. And because I think that's where that line comes in, is where if you're pushing out that other voice or that other perspective of having someone that needs you or depends on you, and you're pushing that out because you're, for whatever reason, whatever's convenient, to just focus on whatever it is that you want to do. And you know, we have that innate ability to really sense what our kids need and knowing that we're providing the best that we can for them. So if there really is a need that they're expressing, you know, those tears said how he felt in that moment. And to me, that's the definition of motherhood, is like that you heard him. You know what I mean? Because that's our, like, one of our superpowers is hearing and understanding our kids and knowing what they're trying to express to us and being willing to hear them. And oh God, I'm freaking getting emotional again. It's just, you know, I think we've gone full circle in terms of saying, like, there's this voice inside of yourself that you're listening to in pursuing your dream. And you feel like you're not finished or you miss this part of yourself. And, you know, motherhood doesn't change that. But at the same time, when you feel like you fulfilled that purpose for yourself, or, you know, circumstances happen and you end up choosing your family or whatever it might be, I'm probably not expressing it well, but I'm just hearing like our conversation round out. We're like, because life is like, I mean, I'm going to speak as an old ass, but, you know, there are like certain moments in your life, moments in time, I would say. And, you know, for some teams, there isn't really a limit on it, but, you know, our period as a professional cheerleader or dancer, it's a moment. It's not intended to be like indefinitely forever. And what we take away from that time, what we invest in that time, the sacrifices we make, it's just all part of that moment. And it's okay for that moment to pass and you move on to other things. And it's how you seize that moment. And I hear such amazing stories from each of you of how you seized that moment and you didn't let it pass you by. You didn't say, you know, at the different ages that you were at, that you were like, you know what, I'm not going to pursue this professional thing. I'm just going to not listen to that voice inside of myself, and I'm going to like press forward with this path. I mean, it's still not too late if you chose to do that, but the fact that you were true to yourselves and honoring that voice inside of you, I just think it's just so powerful because we can stifle that a lot. And then you also, as a mom, come around to hearing that voice and expressing your kids. That's our mommy superpower, if you ask me. I'm sorry. I just think it's incredible. Do you guys have like a message that you would share with a mother out there who's either considering auditioning, a mother who's on a team, like any?
Oh my gosh, Mhkeeba, you just got me so riled up. Like I am back here like clenching fists. Like,
go for it, girl.
There is so much power, I think, that I personally have discovered behind being female, being a woman. And it's so funny. I literally just posted about this and was talking to my husband about it. Just that by definition, our gender and our bodies are so intensely powerful. Like we command the force of human life. We have the within ourselves to become that force to a much greater understanding than what we grew up with.
Yeah.
To commit to following our dream or demanding a path for our child that we created, we birthed, we brought into the world. And I think my message to other moms who are in a similar position, other women or girls, first-time veteran mom would be, we have so much instinct within us. Like, you know when something is right for your family, for your child. You can hear your child's voice without them even speaking. And to listen to your own heart and inner voice. But just to know that no matter what season of life you're in, if you're a first-time mom, a veteran mom, that it doesn't mean that you as a person fall off the map, that it gives you almost even a stronger, more grounded purpose in life to have another little personality that you're fostering, a child to look after. And it's so absolutely possible to pursue a passion or be passionate about something and still be a passionate mother.
Yeah.
And as much as it might be stigmaed or you might feel judged because it is the norm to not, it is to put yourself on the back burner and be, cul-de-sac 3 meals a day, drop off, pick up, organize. Like there are many ways to mother and still raise a healthy, beautiful child. And in the end, that is the goal, to have a happy, healthy child lacking for nothing. And just because there's something that you want as a person in your heart does not mean that you're not going to be that person for your child. So in my personal experience, I know that I doubted and I really questioned going after something that I wanted being a first-time mom because I was so worried about judgment of others or if I would myself would regret. And I know that my most treasured memories about going back to the team that year and then the year following, my most treasured memories don't surround like how hard it was, the breakdowns, which there was breakdowns, like to be honest, like I did doubt, I did struggle, but that is not what stayed with me. What has persisted 100% is the positive effect of choosing to do that and persevere. And we only have so much time in life to make decisions and do things. And I personally believe that the sacrifice and challenge to work through that I have zero regrets about going back.
Yeah, I would 100% say go for it. You know what? If it's your dream and you're not going to get that opportunity for your dream again, just as you mentioned, there is a period in life where, we're able-bodied and, NFL or NBA ready. And so if you don't take advantage of it at that time, you'll never know. And sometimes that's the hardest thing in life is regret or just not going for things and wondering what could have been. Maybe if I did try it. And you don't want to live with that. Your kids will persevere. Mm-hmm. I am so proud, you guys, as a mom. Oh my gosh, I'm going to cry. My little boy, who was 5 when I made Raiderettes, is now 21 and just graduated college. Aww. So, yeah, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think that's proof that, as a single mom with a career, with, a dance dream and And as a mom, it is all 100% possible. It's all about, I think at the end of the day, what you pour into your children, and you pour in the right things, you pour in love, and they know that they're going to have mama's back. Go for it. If it's your dream, do not let motherhood be the thing that stops you from pursuing your goal.
And now, what does your son say now about you being a Raiderette back when he was 5? What does he think of that now?
Totally brag-worthy now, right?
I love it.
Yes.
Turn around one day.
Yes. He will tell me, Mom, I'll be like, oh, I'm looking so, crappy today, or fat or whatever. And he'll be like, Mom, everyone says you're hot. Like, you're really hot. It's like, okay, hey, at 43, I do what I can. However, it's a great point, Summer, because now, and believe me, your boys will be there too. It'll be like, oh, your mom was what? Back then, no big deal.
Those swimsuit calendars, like,
right?
Like, this was her.
Yes, absolutely. And, back in the day, it was like, he didn't know what it was. His friends didn't know what it was. But believe me, starting in like high school and college, like once they all know, oh, what? Your mom was what? It's a big deal.
Hitting up Google, looking it up.
Brag for the moment. Yep.
Anybody else have any advice for new moms? You guys have got me so emotional.
I was just going to say, I said it before, that it's just a rare breed of superhero, especially Lee with your story. Like, I can't even imagine your body, your mental, all of that, and how you did that. Motherhood is not for the weak at all. And we are all such strong women raising strong children. And I think all of us following our dreams and allowing them to watch that is going to really help them follow theirs. And it's just really incredible to see all of this. It's awesome.
So awesome. Piggybacking off of that a little bit, like I asked you guys if you had a message to your children. I mean, some of us still have youngins. Mine are teenagers now. I mean, yours 21. But what is it that you want them to understand about you in pursuing this, or take away from your journey of becoming a pro cheerleader or dancer? What do you want them to take away from that experience? Amy, let's pick on you, not pick on you, but I'm pull my teacher hat.
Yeah. Well, I think the most important part for me going through everything, I want him to know that if you have a dream, no matter where you are in life, just go for it. If you work hard, you dedicate to your craft, you will get there. And it doesn't matter where you are, who you are, just go for it. And he does that now at 10. So this was the first year where I didn't have to pay for basketball. He actually had to try out. So he knew what a tryout was because he had seen me try out. Yeah. So he was wanting to practice, wanting to go on Saturdays to work on his craft. And he went into his tryout feeling ready, feeling confident, because he saw his mama do that too.
Oh, shit. Every time I think but I just think
and he did make the team, by the way.
Oh, hey. Congratulations. I just think about just your life as a military wife, and thank your husband for his service and everything, but just the lifestyle of moving and having to start over, and just there's a lot of courage to build up to go after your dreams as a kid that age, and having those different challenges of you're going for it in a whole different way when you're with new people or new surroundings. And just, you guys have just been such an amazing example to your kids of what it takes. Like, we know how hard it is to do what we do, the practice, the time, just the focus and determination. And, even without like sitting your kid down and be like, I'm trying to teach you about discipline. No. Those lessons they're just picking up from us very indirectly. Oh, look at your little one. But it's just
I told you I'd probably get interrupted no matter what.
Well, I know we've gone past our little time, but I just want to applaud you all for just standing in your strength and being that example without even trying. And what your kids are going to take away from watching you, I think, is the most beautiful. I mean, Linda, you mentioned your daughter doing junior Seagulls, whoa, that's mine, junior Redskins with you. And I don't want to like end there, but it just makes me think of my daughter. You know, she was so like at my hip for a while, and I thought, oh shit, here's the damn it. Oh shoot, is your kid around still? Sorry, Summer. But I just remember thinking, oh man, she's so clingy, like maybe she's traumatized for me not being around. I don't know. But I just remember juniors was always my favorite part of being on a team. And my daughter, she was supposed to be 5, I think, or 6, but she snuck in at 5. And I don't even remember if she really wanted to. I just thought of like ways to keep her with me. And she was so shy, so quiet. My son was Mr., you know, doing the most, performing and dancing everywhere. But I just had this moment where I was just like blown over because, you know, the first time that she danced and learned her little minis dance, and this freaking confident little superpower that just started dancing her little butt off to Bruno Mars, who's still her favorite artist to this day. Just like, you know, I'm like shaking, but I just thought like, she just felt what I feel, you know, in that moment of like performing, and it just came full circle for me. Like, this is what it's not like this. She doesn't need to become a Seagull by any means, but it's just like, I just felt like I saw for the first time her light up, and whether she was emulating me or not, just that feeling of like, I'm having the time of my life in that moment. I mean, or just finding their passion, like you said, you know, and helping your kids realize what sets them on fire. And that's like the best feeling in the world as a parent, to see your kids fulfill that. And to think that she got anything from like watching me, I'm like looking for her little style. I'm like, but they're picking it up from us. And I just really want to applaud you guys for being such great moms, being willing to share your experience. I'm blown away. This is like beyond what I could have ever asked for. And especially for Mother's Day, I'm a big wuss, so I'm just going to shut up. If you guys have anything else to add, I just really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for connecting us all and giving us that sense of like, we weren't alone. And it's just a beautiful journey. Like you said, Lee, that's totally worth it. No regrets. And you take away all the best parts. And I think our kids take away the best parts too, for sure. Any last thoughts before I like? No,
one super quick. I will be so quick. I feel like all of our kids would say the same, but one point of gratification and just validation that I feel like I've had is whenever Cayman sees the Redskins logo, he always says mommy, always. He'll point it out. He'll say, associate it with me, the field, whatever it is. And it's not men, it's not football, it's not sports, it's always mommy. And I feel like all of your kids would say the same. And that for me was just like beyond words. So happy. Like, it made me know that I made the right decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if you're proud, like the more proud you are, your child should be just as proud. You know, like when those accomplishments come, they just come, and then you're just overwhelmed, and your child feels that overwhelming. You know, like when I go into my child's school, they're like, oh, so you're the cheerleader. Like they start to brag about you because your accomplishments, and you're so happy, and they go to the stadium and they see your picture, and like they just like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing. Like going for your dreams, like just know that no matter what, how many no's, you're still a role model to your child. And that's always like the biggest picture in the world, you know?
Absolutely. Okay, everybody's grabbing their kids. I love it. For sure.
My child's not here. She's at grandma's.
It's so nice to see everyone's little ones.
I've been doing makeup for the past however long we've been on, so that's cool.
great.
Oh.
Well, I know I've stolen you guys away. Like I said, it's just been a wonderful way for me to spend my Saturday. Please send in your pictures with your kids and your uniforms. I'm so excited to launch this on Wednesday, but I just thank you so much. From the bottom of my heart, I wish you all a happy, happy Mother's Day. And
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
This was amazing.
Yes. I feel like I have 7 new sisters for sure.
I know.
Say Happy Mother's Day.
Oh,
Happy Mother's Day.
oh,
Thank
happy
you.
Oh, too. You guys can have your mommies back. Okay, my kids promised me for Mother's Day this year that they would participate in this episode, and they are already laughing. Oh my God. Please welcome to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast, my offspring that I love dearly. Quentin Alexander Berry is my 15-year-old son. Say hi, Quentin.
Hi.
And Simone Elise Berry is my... You're cracking your knuckles. What are you doing?
Oh, sorry.
What's wrong with you?
Focus. Simone Elise Berry is my 13-year-old daughter. They just had birthdays April 23rd and 25th. And I asked them to join me just so that they can share from their perspective. We've heard from the mama's perspective, but just what it was like having a mom as a pro cheerleader and any advice that they would give to other mothers who are considering following their dream. So I told them it'd be brief and painless. So Simone, let's start with you. What were some of the pros and cons of having a mother who is a pro cheerleader?
Okay, so some of the pros were it was like a really cool fun fact or like a cool thing to tell people when you first meet them. It was like, oh, my mom did this. She danced with these people. She knew like football players and stuff. That was pretty cool telling people when I was little. But like the cons were just not really getting to go to like after school events as often or just being able to stay.
Because it is a lot to balance. And I know that there were times where just in terms of play dates or different activities, not being able to bring you, or it definitely became a little difficult to manage at times where you might have missed out on certain activities, right?
Right.
But did you die though? No, I'm kidding.
No, I mean, now it's not that big of a deal. Now I don't remember it being like a huge thing when I was little because it was all I really knew. Mm-hmm. Because he started when we were like starting elementary school.
Right.
So it's kind of how we went through elementary school. So it wasn't anything that different.
Okay, thank you, Simone.
You're welcome.
Quentin, do you have any advice to give to mothers who are questioning whether to follow their passion and their goals to become a professional dancer if they have kids?
Balance your time out, I guess. Like, have time for your kids, but also don't let them drag you down from chasing your dreams. So,
you guys never dragged me down, ever.
It's good to know.
You guys are often the inspiration to do what I did, and I hope, as evidence, you guys are straight A kids and doing really well in school, even though you're kind of not in school right now with this quarantine. But you turned out okay, and I think it's just kind of...
Just okay?
Just okay? I mean, no, you guys turned out fabulous, and I couldn't be more proud of you, and I hope that somehow I have also made you proud of me.
Yeah.
you have.
That sounded really enthusiastic. But thank you for participating in this interview. I appreciate you and I love you.
I love you too. I love you more.
I love you most.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Pro Cheerleading Podcast. You can follow your favorite podcast on social media at Pro Cheerleading Podcast on Instagram, at Pro Cheer Podcast on Twitter. We're on Facebook, on YouTube, and you can support your favorite podcast on Patreon. Until next time, keep your eyes on the sidelines.